pre-COVID, what were the big obstacles that you had to overcome? I'm glad that the plane lifted off the ground, but now keeping it in flight. So what were the obstacles of keeping it in flight after you got it off the ground?
So I was lucky. I always tell people the ship has sailed, right? On that particular business model, because it was grassroots. I took $8,000 out of my checking account, my life savings, my entire life savings, took it out, put it down on a property, got a couple things of equipment, like bare bones equipment. And I started with nothing. I started with maybe 12, 15 clients, and I built it from there. So that's hard to do nowadays, right?
No social media, nothing like that.
No social media, word of mouth.
Right.
Nowadays, rent is astronomical, man. It's crazy. So I think the business model has shifted, and we could talk about that a little later, where it's going, right, and how people can capitalize on the future of fitness. But back in the day, it was a little bit easier. There wasn't a lot of CrossFit games in town. I was one of the only ones, so I started out small and I grew grassroots. Instagram popped off at 2012, I think, my first year.
Yeah.
And so I got on Instagram.
It's 10 years old.
Seriously.
Time
I was on
flies when you're having
Facebook.
fun.
I had my MySpace going. I had my top 8.
That was a thing.
Yeah, MySpace.
Yo, when I first opened my sidebar, when I opened my MySpace and I saw Tom was a friend, I thought he was a pedophile. And I immediately blocked him. I was like, yo, who the fuck is this guy? And then my friends had to be like, no, bro, he's always your first friend. And I was like, oh, I sent him this whole note, bro, who the fuck are you?
That's what you guys,
you grown ass man, that don't fucking.
You guys got to get Tom on this show. I want to hear his story.
So it was mostly grassroots people just knowing you in person and seeing already what you were capable of.
Yeah. You got to be charismatic. You have to obviously know what you're talking about, right? That's always a prerequisite, but you have to be interesting and people have to like you and they have to draw a connection with you. And I was lucky while I was coaching at CrossFit Queens, I got about 10, 15 people who really liked my style, right? And when I opened a crawl 8 miles away, they traveled. They went from Astoria out to Bayside. And that's not an easy commute. It's it's like a half hour, 40 minutes in traffic. And they came out and they supported me and they're members of mine. And then from there, it just kind of kept growing. It just was a snowball effect.
But I mean, listen, I feel like at that early stage, although the plane was in the air, you can consider that an early stage. Yeah. People willing to take the drive, to travel the time, to cut the time out of their day to come to you is a great indicator of yo, bro, I'm doing something right. I have something that has long lasting, a great base.
That's right.
So,
but I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I did everything right. I made mistakes every step of the way. And anytime a prospective business owner comes to me, I'm like, talk to me. I will be your best resource. I will tell you every mistake I've made and how not to make that mistake, at least to give you a heads up.
Right.
That's very common, though.
Yeah.
It's very common. A lot of people, very talented people who want to do their own thing, but they don't understand the business part of it first.
That's
they kind of like what you did. You got the equipment, you got all the logos, and you did everything else, but getting a lease.
Yeah. So you might have the passion, you might have the perseverance to a certain point, but you just don't have the basic understanding, and that's tough. And what I gotta say about for business owners, nobody taught me any of this stuff. You have to sit down till 4 o'clock in the morning, sometimes figuring it out. How the hell do I file my taxes? How the hell do I keep my books? How the hell do I negotiate a new lease? All that legal, right? You guys know, think about that, right?
Entrepreneurship.
That's a lot. There's a lot to it. It's not that easy. So I made the mistake. I took on a business partner very early on because financially, I was insecure. I'm like, I don't know if I have enough money. For me, it was the worst thing I could have done, right? It was a crutch that ended up biting me in the ass. And I ended up having a huge legal dispute with this person. We broke off. I opened up my own gym 5.5 years ago now. And it was like starting fresh, starting all over. And now I had to apply all of those things I did in 2012 in 2017. And a lot of it didn't work anymore, right?
It was outdated.
Grassroots doesn't work anymore in 2017. You need social media. You need to have the prices on leases were through the roof at this point. And it was a really difficult, second try, I should say, And so I ended up, luckily, I made it work. I had a good following that came with me. I figured out some of the stuff that I messed up on, the first time. The pitfall that ended up happening is COVID. So now I got the ball running.